Maya Chen sat in the corner of the transport shuttle, her small frame almost invisible among the larger recruits. The other humans barely glanced her way as they boasted about their training scores and previous military experience. At 19, she looked even younger, with her quiet demeanor and tendency to keep her eyes down when others spoke. "I scored 97% on the tactical assessment," bragged Marcus, a heavily built man from the Mars colonies. "Beat everyone in my training group." "That's nothing," laughed Sarah, flipping her blonde hair. "I led 3 successful missions during the border conflicts. Real combat experience, not just simulations." Maya remained silent, absently checking her personal tablet. The other recruits had stopped trying to include her in conversations weeks ago. She spoke only when directly addressed, and even then, her responses were brief and barely audible. Most assumed she was just another scared kid who had somehow made it through basic training. The shuttle shuddered as it approached the massive space station orbiting Kepler 438b. Through the viewport, Maya could see the sprawling structure that housed the Galactic Defense Initiative's newest training facility. This was where the best of the best from all member species came to prove themselves worthy of joining the elite forces that protected the galaxy from threats beyond the outer rim. "Look at that," whispered someone behind Maya. "I've never seen so many different species in one place." Maya glanced up to see various alien beings moving about the docking bays. Tall, blue-skinned Arcadians with their multiple arms worked alongside the insectoid Vrathari. The crystalline Luxans caught the light as they glided past, while the massive, bear-like Gornathi lumbered through the corridors. "Attention, recruits!" came the pilot's voice over the intercom. "We'll be docking in 5 minutes. Report to Commander Zaxthor in Bay 7 immediately upon arrival." The shuttle's engines hummed as they maneuvered into the docking bay. Maya gathered her small duffel bag, which contained everything she owned in the galaxy. Unlike the others who had expensive equipment and family gifts, Maya's belongings fit easily into the standard-issue bag. As they filed off the shuttle, Maya caught her first glimpse of Commander Zaxthor. The Vrathari officer stood nearly 8 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the bright station lights. His forearms moved with precise efficiency as he gestured for the recruits to form ranks. "Welcome to Station Harmony," Zaxthor's voice buzzed through the translation device at his throat. "You are here because someone believes you have potential. I am here to determine if that belief is justified." Maya took her place at the back of the formation, barely visible behind the taller recruits. She noticed how the commander's compound eyes seemed to take in every detail of each recruit in a single sweep. "For the next 6 months, you will undergo the most challenging training regimen in the galaxy. You will be tested physically, mentally, and morally. Most of you will fail." Zaxthor's mandibles clicked ominously. "Those who succeed will join the ranks of the Void Guardians, the galaxy's first line of defense against the threats that lurk in the darkness between stars." A chill ran through the group. Everyone had heard stories about the Void Guardians, the elite unit that faced horrors most civilized beings couldn't imagine. They were the ones who stood between the peaceful worlds of the galaxy and the ancient evils that sought to consume everything. "Report to your assigned quarters," Zaxthor continued. "Training begins at 600 hours. Do not be late." Maya checked her tablet for her room assignment and made her way through the station's corridors. The walls were lined with memorial plaques honoring fallen guardians. Each name represented someone who had given their life to protect others. Maya paused at one particular plaque that showed a young human woman not much older than herself. "Lieutenant Sarah Kim," Maya read softly, "gave her life defending the civilian evacuation at Proxima Station." "She was one of the best," said a voice behind her. Maya turned to see an older human man wearing the distinctive black and silver uniform of the Void Guardians. His face was weathered, marked by scars that spoke of countless battles. "I'm Captain Rodriguez," he said. "I knew Sarah. She started out just like you, quiet and overlooked. But she had something special inside her." Maya nodded politely, but didn't respond. She had learned long ago that it was better to let others talk while she listened. "What's your specialty, recruit?" Rodriguez asked. "Marksmanship," Maya replied in her characteristically soft voice. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Any good at it?" Maya shrugged slightly. "I don't miss." The captain studied her for a moment, noting something in her calm confidence that most people missed. "We'll see about that. Good luck in training." Maya found her quarters and was relieved to discover she had been assigned a single room. The space was small but functional, with a bed, desk, and storage locker. She unpacked her few belongings and sat on the edge of the bed, looking out the small viewport at the stars beyond. Her thoughts drifted back to Earth, to the small farming community where she had grown up. Her parents had died in an agricultural accident when she was 16, leaving her alone with only her grandfather's old hunting rifle and the skills he had taught her in the wilderness. She had survived on her own for 2 years before military recruiters found her living off the land, taking down game with impossible accuracy. The next morning, Maya woke before her alarm and made her way to the training facility. The gymnasium was massive, designed to accommodate various alien physiologies. She arrived early and found herself alone, except for a few automated maintenance drones. She was stretching quietly in the corner when the other recruits began arriving. Marcus swaggered in wearing top-of-the-line workout gear, while Sarah chatted loudly with a group of other experienced fighters. They barely noticed Maya as they claimed the best spots near the front of the room. Commander Zaxthor entered precisely at 0600, followed by several other instructors from different species. Maya recognized an Arcadian weapons specialist and a Gornathi combat instructor among them. "Today we begin with basic assessments," Zaxthor announced. "We need to understand your current capabilities before we can improve them." The first test was physical fitness. Maya watched as the other recruits performed impressive feats of strength and endurance. Marcus dominated the strength challenges, while Sarah excelled at the agility courses. Maya completed each task competently but unremarkably, finishing in the middle of the pack without drawing attention. Next came tactical simulations. The recruits were divided into teams and given various scenarios to solve. Maya found herself consistently placed with the less impressive candidates, as the natural leaders gravitated toward each other and chose the most obvious talents for their teams. During one exercise involving a hostage rescue simulation, Maya's team was struggling. Their leader, a cocky recruit named Davidson, was making poor decisions and refusing to listen to input. Maya watched the scenario unfold on the holographic display, seeing a clear solution that the others were missing. "There's a ventilation shaft on the north side," she said quietly. Davidson barely glanced at her. "We're going through the front entrance. It's the most direct route. But there are 17 hostiles covering that approach," Maya pointed out softly. "I've handled worse odds," Davidson snapped. "Just follow my lead and try not to get in the way." The simulation proceeded, as Maya had predicted. Davidson's frontal assault resulted in the deaths of several hostages and most of the team. As the red mission failed message flashed across the screen, Maya noticed Commander Zaxthor making notes on his tablet. The day continued with more assessments. Maya performed adequately in hand-to-hand combat, was unremarkable in technical knowledge tests, and remained nearly invisible during leadership exercises. By the end of the day, most of the other recruits had dismissed her as just another quota filler who wouldn't last a month. As evening approached, the recruits were led to the firing range for marksmanship evaluations. This was the one area where Maya felt completely at home. The range was equipped with various weapons from different civilizations designed to test accuracy, adaptability, and precision under pressure. Each recruit will fire 10 rounds with a standard plasma rifle, announced Sergeant Krill, a four-armed Arcadian with cybernetic targeting implants. Targets will appear at random distances and angles. You will be scored on accuracy and reaction time. Maya watched as the other recruits took their turns. Marcus managed 7 hits out of 10, which was considered excellent for a first attempt with an alien weapon. Sarah scored 8 hits, drawing impressed nods from the instructors. When Maya's turn came, she stepped up to the firing line without fanfare. The plasma rifle felt different from her grandfather's old projectile weapon, but the principles were the same. She lifted the weapon, testing its weight and balance. The first target appeared 200 meters away, a small disc moving in an erratic pattern. Maya tracked its movement for half a second, then squeezed the trigger. The target disintegrated. 9 more targets appeared in rapid succession at various distances and angles. Some moved, others remained stationary. One appeared for only a fraction of a second before disappearing behind cover. Maya engaged each target with the same calm precision, her breathing steady and her movements economical. When the sequence ended, the range fell silent. The scoring display showed 10 perfect hits, each one striking the exact center of the target. More impressive still, her reaction time was nearly instantaneous for each shot. Sergeant Krill's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he stared at the scores. "Run the sequence again," he said to the range computer. The second sequence was more challenging, with smaller targets at greater distances and more complex movement patterns. Maya's performance was identical. 10 perfect shots, impossibly fast reaction times. "Again!" Krill commanded, his voice tight with disbelief. The third sequence included targets that appeared for mere milliseconds, some partially obscured, others moving at maximum speed. Maya never hesitated, never adjusted her stance, never missed. The other recruits had gathered behind her, watching in stunned silence. Marcus's jaw hung open, while Sarah gripped the rail with white knuckles. Even the instructors from other species had come to observe the display. Commander Zaxthor approached the firing line, his compound eyes fixed on Maya. "Recruit Chen," he buzzed through his translator. "Have you ever fired a plasma weapon before today?" "No, sir," Maya replied in her soft voice, setting the rifle down carefully. "Any formal marksmanship training?" "My grandfather taught me to hunt when I was young." Zaxthor made several notes on his tablet. "Report to advanced weapons training tomorrow at 0500 hours. 1 hour before the others." Maya nodded and walked away, leaving behind a group of stunned recruits and instructors. As she made her way back to her quarters, she could hear whispered conversations starting behind her. "Did you see that? Impossible accuracy. How does someone that quiet shoot like that?" In her room that night, Maya sat by the viewport again, looking out at the stars. She thought about her grandfather's words from years ago. "Maya, in this galaxy, the loudest voices often belong to the emptiest heads. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself." She pulled out a small, worn photo from her duffel bag. It showed her grandfather standing beside a massive tree on Earth, his old rifle slung over his shoulder. He had been a quiet man, too. But Maya remembered the way dangerous predators would simply avoid their part of the forest, as if they instinctively knew something they couldn't understand. As she prepared for sleep, Maya reflected on the day's events. She had spent years being overlooked and underestimated, and she had learned to use that to her advantage. In a galaxy full of beings trying to prove their strength through loud displays and aggressive posturing, there was power in being the silent observer who saw everything and revealed nothing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Maya wasn't worried. She had survived alone in Earth's wilderness, lived through the loss of her family, and made it through military training that broke stronger-looking candidates. Whatever tests lay ahead, she would face them with the same quiet determination that had carried her this far. Outside her window, The stars seemed to whisper of adventures yet to come, of darkness that would need to be faced, and of a galaxy that would learn to respect the soft-spoken girl they had been too quick to dismiss. Maya Chen closed her eyes and let sleep take her, unaware that her demonstration at the firing range had already begun to change how others saw her. In the instructor's quarters, Commander Zaxthor reviewed the day's recordings with his fellow trainers. On the screen, Maya's shooting performance played in slow motion. Each shot a perfect display of timing and precision. In 30 years of training Void Guardians, Zaxthor clicked thoughtfully, I have never seen natural accuracy like this. The question is whether she has the mental fortitude to use such skills when it truly matters. The Arcadian weapons instructor nodded his agreement. Accuracy means nothing without the will to pull the trigger when lives depend on it. We have seen precise shooters freeze when facing real threats. Then we will find out what this human is truly made of, Zaxthor decided. Double her training load. If she breaks, better to discover it now than in the field. As the instructors planned Maya's intensified training regimen, the quiet recruit slept peacefully. Dreams filled with memories of hunting in Earth's forests, and her grandfather's proud smile when she made an impossible shot. She had no way of knowing that her simple display of marksmanship had set in motion events that would test her in ways she could never imagine. Maya arrived at the Advanced Weapons Training Facility an hour before the other recruits, as instructed. The room was dimly lit, with weapon racks lining the walls and holographic targeting systems suspended from the ceiling. Sergeant Krill was waiting for her, his 4 arms crossed as he studied her approach. Recruit Chen, the Arcadian said, his translator giving his voice a metallic edge. Yesterday's performance was unusual. Today we determine if it was luck or skill. Maya nodded silently, her expression unchanged. She had learned years ago that actions spoke louder than words, especially when others doubted her abilities. Krill led her to a weapon she had never seen before. It was sleek and alien, with bioorganic curves that seemed to pulse with internal energy. This is a Vrathari precision rifle. It bonds temporarily with the user's nervous system to enhance accuracy. Most beings require weeks of training before they can fire it without the neural feedback causing severe disorientation. The sergeant handed Maya the weapon, watching carefully for any signs of discomfort as she took it. The rifle felt warm in her hands, and she experienced a brief tingling sensation as neural connectors made contact with her skin through her uniform. The weapon is reading your biometric data and brain patterns, Krill explained. It will amplify your natural abilities, but the feedback can be overwhelming for untrained users. Are you experiencing any dizziness or nausea? Maya tested the weapon's weight and balance. The rifle felt like a natural extension of her body, as if it had been crafted specifically for her hands. No, sir. It feels normal. Krill's eyes widened slightly. Most species required extensive conditioning before they could interface with Vrathari biotechnology without adverse effects. Very well. The targets will be at extreme range, some beyond normal visual capabilities. The rifle's scope will enhance your vision, but you must learn to trust the neural link. The first target appeared nearly a kilometer away, a small metallic disc barely visible even with the enhanced optics. Maya settled into a comfortable shooting position, feeling the weapon's system synchronize with her own nervous system. Through the scope, she could see the target as clearly as if it were only meters away. She took a breath, let half of it out, and gently squeezed the trigger. The energy bolt crossed the distance instantly, striking the target dead center. For the next hour, Krill presented increasingly difficult challenges. Targets appeared and disappeared in fractions of a second. Some moved in complex three-dimensional patterns. Others were partially concealed behind obstacles. Maya hit them all, her accuracy never wavering despite the growing complexity of the shots. Impossible, Krill muttered, checking his instruments for the 3rd time. The neural strain alone should have incapacitated you by now. Maya carefully set down the rifle and flexed her fingers. She felt energized rather than drained, as if the weapon's systems had somehow enhanced her natural state rather than taxing it. "I feel fine, sir." When the other recruits arrived for regular training, word of Maya's early session had already spread. They watched her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion as she took her place among them for the day's exercises. Commander Zaxthor had designed today's training around small unit tactics. The recruits were divided into teams of 4 and given complex scenarios that required coordination, communication, and strategic thinking. Maya found herself assigned to a team with Davidson, who still resented her quiet corrections from the previous day. "Just stay out of the way," Davidson told her as they reviewed their mission parameters. "We'll handle the important stuff." Their scenario involved infiltrating a space station to retrieve vital intelligence while avoiding detection by superior numbers of enemy forces. The simulation was based on a real mission that had cost the lives of several Void Guardians the previous year. Maya studied the holographic layout of the station, noting patrol patterns and security weaknesses that the others missed. She tried to point out a vulnerable access route, but Davidson cut her off. "We're going with the standard infiltration protocol," he declared. "I've run similar missions before." The simulation began with their team inserting via shuttle to the station's docking bay. Within minutes, Davidson's aggressive approach had triggered multiple alarms. The enemy AI was programmed to respond realistically, and soon their team was pinned down in a corridor with hostiles closing in from multiple directions. "This is impossible!" shouted Reynolds, one of their teammates, as simulated plasma bolts sizzled past their position. Maya observed the tactical situation with calm detachment. She could see at least 17 different solutions to their predicament, but Davidson was too panicked to listen to suggestions. As the simulation enemies closed in, Maya made a decision. Moving with fluid precision, she slipped away from their covered position and worked her way through the station's maintenance areas. The others were too focused on their desperate firefight to notice her departure. Using her knowledge of the station's layout, Maya positioned herself in a series of strategically chosen locations. Her simulated rifle picked off key enemy personnel with impossible accuracy, each shot removing a crucial link in their coordination. She moved like a ghost through the station, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before return fire could locate her. Within 20 minutes, Maya had systematically eliminated the entire enemy force without taking a single hit. The simulation ended with the mission objectives completed and her teammates standing in stunned silence amid the virtual debris. "How did you—" Davidson stammered, staring at the tactical display that showed Maya's movement patterns throughout the station. "The maintenance shafts provided concealed movement routes," Maya explained quietly. The enemy positioning had 3 major weaknesses that could be exploited by a single operative with sufficient accuracy. Commander Zaxthor reviewed the simulation data with growing interest. Maya had achieved something that seasoned Void Guardian veterans had failed to accomplish in the original mission. Her combination of tactical awareness and marksmanship was unlike anything he had seen in decades of training. The rest of the week followed a similar pattern. Maya continued to excel in firearms training while remaining unremarkable in most other areas. Her quiet demeanor meant that many instructors overlooked her contributions to team exercises, but those who paid attention began to notice a pattern. During survival training in the station's environmental chambers, Maya demonstrated an uncanny ability to find resources that others missed. While her teammates struggled with alien flora and fauna, she moved through the simulated wilderness with the confidence of someone who had lived off the land for years. In strategic planning exercises, her soft-spoken suggestions often proved to be the key to success, though louder teammates usually received the credit. Maya didn't seem to mind the lack of recognition. She appeared more interested in solving problems than receiving praise. It was during the zero-gravity combat training that Maya's reputation truly began to spread. The exercise took place in the station's rotation-free training module, where recruits had to engage simulated enemies while maneuvering in three-dimensional space. Most new recruits struggled with the disorientation of weightless combat. Even experienced soldiers found it difficult to maintain accuracy while dealing with complex movement vectors and shifting reference frames. Maya adapted to the environment as if she had been born in space. Floating serenely in the center of the training area, she engaged targets above, below, and around her with smooth, economical movements. Her shots were just as precise as they were under normal gravity, and she seemed to instinctively understand how to use micro-thrusters and handholds to maintain optimal firing positions. "She makes it look effortless," whispered Sarah to Marcus as they watched Maya eliminate the final wave of targets. "It's not natural," Marcus replied, shaking his head. "Nobody adapts that fast to zero-G combat." Sergeant Krill, who had been observing from the control booth, made detailed notes about Maya's performance. Her ability to maintain accuracy while managing complex three-dimensional movement suggested spatial reasoning abilities that were off the charts. After the exercise, Maya was approached by Captain Rodriguez, the veteran Void Guardian she had met on her first day. He had been quietly observing her training progress and was clearly impressed by what he had seen. "Walk with me, Chen," he said, leading her away from the other recruits. They strolled through one of the station's observation decks, where vast windows provided a view of the Kepler system's distant star. Rodriguez was silent for several minutes, apparently gathering his thoughts. "In my 20 years as a Void Guardian," he finally said, "I've seen a lot of promising recruits. Some had incredible physical abilities, others were tactical geniuses, and a few possessed remarkable courage under fire. You're the first I've met who seems to have all three." Maya listened without responding, her eyes focused on the stars beyond the viewport. "The thing is," Rodriguez continued, "being a Void Guardian isn't just about passing training exercises. Out there, beyond the rim, we face things that would break most people's minds. Ancient evils that have been drifting through space since before our civilizations existed. Creatures that feed on fear and despair." He paused, studying Maya's reaction. Her expression remained calm and attentive. "The question isn't whether you can shoot straight or solve tactical problems. The question is whether you can do those things when you're facing something that shouldn't exist, something that makes your instincts scream at you to run." Maya turned to meet his gaze directly for the first time in their conversation. "I've been alone with dangerous things before, sir. I know what it feels like to be afraid and keep working anyway." Rodriguez nodded slowly. There was something in her quiet confidence that reminded him of the best guardians he had served with. "I'm recommending you for accelerated training. If you agree, you'll be fast-tracked through the advanced programs." "What would that involve?" "Specialized weapons training, xenobiology, deep space survival, and exposure to captured artifacts from beyond the rim. You'd graduate in 3 months instead of 6, but the washout rate is 60%. Maya considered this for a moment. "Will I learn to be more effective at protecting people?" "If you survive the training, yes. You'd be among the best-equipped guardians we've ever fielded." "Then I accept." That night, Maya sat in her quarters reviewing training materials for the advanced program. The files contained classified information about the threats that lurked in the spaces between stars. She read about the Devourers, ancient machines that consumed entire worlds. The Whisper Swarms, hive-mind entities that drove civilizations to madness. The Shadow Walkers, beings of pure entropy that existed to unmake reality itself. Any normal person would have been terrified by the descriptions and accompanying images. Maya studied them with the same calm attention she applied to everything else, memorizing weaknesses and tactical considerations. A soft chime indicated an incoming message on her personal communicator. The sender was listed as unknown, but the message was brief and direct. The silent ones see most clearly. Some of us have noticed. Be ready. Maya deleted the message and returned to her studies. She had learned long ago that mysterious warnings were less important than solid preparation. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the same quiet determination that had carried her through everything else. 3 corridors away, Commander Zaxthor was having an encrypted conversation with his superiors at Void Guardian Command. The holographic images of several high-ranking officers flickered as they discussed Maya's unprecedented performance. "Her scores are beyond anything in our databases," reported a stern-faced human admiral. "The psychological profiles suggest complete emotional stability under extreme stress. More importantly," added a crystalline Luxan general, her voice chiming like wind chimes, "she shows no signs of the personality disorders we usually see in beings with such extreme capabilities." Zaxthor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "There is something else. Today she interfaced successfully with Vrathari biotechnology on her first attempt. The neural compatibility ratings were higher than anything we've recorded for a non-Vrathari being." The officers exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of unspoken concern. "Commander," the Admiral said carefully, "we need you to run a full genetic and neurological analysis on Recruit Chen. There are some classified human bloodlines that might explain her abilities." "You believe she's descended from the Enhanced?" "It's possible. The Enhanced program was terminated over a century ago, and we've lost track of most of the surviving lineages. If Chen carries those genes, it would explain her unusual capabilities." Zaxthor made notes on his tablet. The Enhanced had been humanity's attempt to create soldiers capable of facing the ancient threats beyond the Rim. The program had been shut down after the Enhanced soldiers began displaying abilities that made their creators uncomfortable. "Regardless of her genetics," the Luxan general chimed, "we need her trained and deployed as soon as possible. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected something approaching from the void, something big." The Admiral's expression grew grim. "How long do we have?" 6 months, maybe less. If Chen is what we think she is, she may be our best hope of stopping whatever's coming." As the encrypted conference ended, Zaxthor looked out his office window at the training facilities below. Somewhere down there, a quiet young woman was calmly reading about cosmic horrors that had driven seasoned warriors to madness. Her ability to absorb such information without psychological trauma was itself evidence of something extraordinary. The galaxy was about to face a threat unlike anything it had seen in generations, and its salvation might depend on the soft-spoken girl everyone had overlooked. Zaxthor could only hope they had time to properly prepare her for what was coming. The alarm klaxons shattered the pre-dawn quiet of Station Harmony, their urgent wail echoing through every corridor and training facility. Maya woke instantly, her enhanced reflexes bringing her to full alertness before her feet touched the floor. This wasn't a drill. The pattern was wrong. The urgency too real. Emergency lighting cast red shadows as she quickly donned her training uniform and grabbed her gear. In the corridors, other recruits stumbled about in confusion, but Maya moved with purposeful calm toward the assembly area. Commander Zaxthor stood before a massive holographic display showing the local star system. Red warning indicators pulsed around what appeared to be a massive dark object approaching from deep space. His usually controlled demeanor showed cracks of genuine concern. 3 hours ago, our long-range sensors detected this, Zaxthor announced, his translator crackling with static. Analysis suggests it's a devourer ship, possibly the largest ever recorded. Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembled recruits and instructors. Maya had studied the classified files on devourers, ancient machines the size of small moons that consumed entire worlds to fuel their incomprehensible purposes. All regular training is suspended. Zax Thor continued. The nearest Void Guardian fleet is 6 days away. Until reinforcements arrive, this station and the civilian colonies in this system are our responsibility. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his weathered face grim. Station Harmony has defensive capabilities, but they're designed to repel conventional attacks. Against a devourer, we need unconventional solutions. Maya watched the tactical display with growing understanding. The devourer's approach vector would bring it past 2 mining colonies and a research outpost before reaching the main inhabited worlds. Standard evacuation procedures would save most civilian lives, but the economic and strategic losses would be catastrophic. "Recruit Chen," Zax Thor called out suddenly. "Report to advanced operations immediately." Maya made her way through corridors buzzing with activity as the station prepared for crisis response. She found advanced operations filled with senior staff and a handful of elite trainees. Her presence among such experienced personnel drew curious glances, but Maya remained focused on the mission briefing. "The Devourer's hull is protected by quantum shielding that deflects conventional weapons," explained Dr. Sherry, a Luxan xenobiologist. "However, our analysis suggests it has sensor arrays that could be vulnerable to precise strikes." A holographic model of the Devourer rotated slowly, revealing its immense complexity. Maya studied the structure intently, noting patterns that others seemed to miss. "The challenge," Dr. Sherry continued, "is that these sensor arrays are only exposed for microseconds as the ship's hull rotates. The timing window is far too brief for normal targeting systems." "What about the biotechnology interface weapons?" asked Lieutenant Voss, one of the advanced trainees. "Even with enhanced targeting, the neural processing requirements exceed safe limits for most species," Rodriguez replied. "We've run simulations. The cognitive load would likely cause permanent damage to anyone attempting the shot." Maya raised her hand slightly. "What kind of damage would a successful strike cause?" Zax Thor's compound eyes fixed on her. "Our models suggest that destroying the sensor arrays would blind the Devourer temporarily, forcing it to reduce speed and use more primitive navigation. That would buy us time for evacuation and allow our fleet to intercept before it reaches the inhabited worlds." "How many shots would be required?" "Minimum of 12 direct hits on separate arrays, all within a 30-second window. The arrays are distributed across a surface area larger than most cities." Maya processed this information calmly. The other personnel in the room were discussing alternative strategies, but she could see the mathematics clearly. No conventional approach would work within the time constraints. "Sir," she said quietly, "I volunteer for the precision strike mission." The room fell silent. Lieutenant Voss shook his head immediately. "That's suicide, Chen. The neural strain alone would kill you before you completed half the shots." "Previous tests suggest Recruit Chen has unusual neural compatibility with biotechnology," Zax Thor noted. "However, this mission exceeds anything we've attempted before." Rodriguez studied Maya carefully. "Even if you could survive the neural load, you'd be operating from an attack fighter at extreme range while maneuvering to avoid the Devourer's defensive systems. The targeting windows are measured in milliseconds." "I understand the risks, sir," Maya replied. "But someone has to try." Dr. Sherry projected new data onto the display. "The Devourer will reach the first mining colony in 18 hours. If we're going to attempt this, we need to launch within 6 hours to reach optimal firing position." The next few hours blurred together in intensive preparation. Maya underwent neural mapping to optimize her interface with the biotechnology weapons. Engineers modified a high-speed interceptor to carry the most advanced targeting systems available. Medical staff monitored her vitals as they calibrated the neural links to her specific brain patterns. Maya remained calm throughout the procedures, her mind focused on the challenge ahead. She had faced impossible odds before, alone in Earth's wilderness, surviving without resources or support. This mission was simply a larger-scale version of the same fundamental challenge. As she suited up for launch, Captain Rodriguez approached with a small device. "This is a neural dampener. If the strain becomes too much, activate it immediately. Better to abort the mission than die in the attempt." Maya nodded and secured the device to her suit. She had no intention of using it, but she understood his concern. The modified interceptor was sleek and fast, equipped with 3 different biotechnology weapon systems. Maya settled into the pilot's seat and began the neural interface sequence. The ship's systems came alive around her, artificial synapses linking directly with her nervous system. Most pilots describe the sensation as overwhelming, having the ship's sensors become extensions of their own senses while maintaining individual consciousness. Maya found it remarkably similar to the heightened awareness she experienced while hunting in the deep wilderness. "Neural link established," she reported to Flight Control. "All systems nominal." "Copy that, Phoenix 1, came Zaxthor's voice through the communication array. "You are cleared for launch. Remember, you have one chance at this. The Devourer's defenses will adapt after the first attack." Maya launched from Station Harmony and accelerated toward the intercept coordinates. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, she could perceive the Devourer long before it became visible to normal instruments. The ancient machine was vast beyond comprehension, its hull covered in geometric patterns that hurt to observe directly. As she approached optimal range, Maya began to feel the true scale of the challenge. The sensor arrays were tiny targets on an immense surface, exposed only when the ship's rotation brought them into specific orientations. She would have less than 30 seconds to acquire and destroy 12 separate targets across a distance measured in thousands of kilometers. The biotechnology weapon systems reached full synchronization with her neural patterns. Maya felt her consciousness expand to encompass the ship's entire sensor grid. She could perceive space around her in impossible detail, tracking minute gravitational variations and electromagnetic fluctuations. "Beginning attack run," she reported calmly. The Devourer's defensive systems activated as soon as she entered their range. Energy beams lanced through space around her ship, each one powerful enough to vaporize a small asteroid. Maya began evasive maneuvers, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to anticipate the defensive patterns before they fully formed. Through the biotechnology interface, she could see the first sensor array rotating into view. The targeting window opened for 3 milliseconds. Maya's shot struck dead center, the array exploding in a brilliant flash of exotic energy. 11 targets remaining, 26 seconds. Maya pushed her ship into an impossible spiral trajectory that brought her around the Devourer's hull at tremendous speed. The ancient machine's rotation was precisely timed, and she had calculated the optimal approach angles during her preparation. Second target, third, fourth. Each shot required her to process targeting data faster than most beings could even perceive. The neural strain was enormous, but Maya's mind remained crystal clear and focused. The Devourer's defenses intensified, recognizing the threat she represented. Swarms of defensive drones launched from hidden bays, while energy weapons created an increasingly deadly web of destruction around her ship. Fifth target, sixth, seventh. Maya's enhanced spatial awareness allowed her to navigate through the defensive fire with minimal course corrections. Every movement was economical and precise, designed to conserve energy for the targeting systems. At the 8th shot, Maya felt the first signs of neural strain. Her vision flickered momentarily, and warning lights flashed on her control panel. The biotechnology systems were pushing her nervous system beyond normal human limits. She ignored the warnings and acquired the 9th target. The shot required her to fire through a gap in the defensive fire that existed for less than 2 milliseconds. Her enhanced reflexes made the timing possible, but just barely. 10th target. The neural strain was becoming severe now, but Maya maintained focus through sheer force of will. Her grandfather's training in the wilderness had taught her to push through pain and exhaustion when survival depended on it. 11th target. 5 seconds remaining. Maya's hands moved across the controls with fluid precision as she lined up the final shot. The targeting solution was complex, requiring her to account for the Devourer's rotation, her own trajectory, and the interference from defensive systems. The last sensor array came into view with 2 seconds remaining in the attack window. Maya's finger found the trigger as every system in her ship screamed warnings about neural overload. Time seemed to slow as she made the final calculations and released the shot. The energy beam struck the 12th sensor array exactly as the timing window closed. The array exploded in a cascade of exotic particles, and suddenly, the Devourer's defensive fire became erratic and uncoordinated. Maya's ship shook violently as neural feedback overloaded her interface systems. Alarms blared as the biotechnology weapons shut down automatically to prevent permanent damage to her nervous system. She fought to maintain consciousness as her vision blurred and her hands trembled on the controls. Phoenix 1, report status, came Rodriguez's urgent voice through the communication system. Mission accomplished, Maya managed to say before the neural strain finally overwhelmed her and darkness claimed her consciousness. When Maya woke 3 days later in Station Harmony's medical bay, she learned that her impossible mission had succeeded beyond all expectations. The blinded Devourer had been forced to reduce speed dramatically, allowing the Void Guardian fleet to intercept and destroy it before it could reach the inhabited worlds. Commander Zaxthor visited her as she recovered, his usually stern demeanor showing something approaching warmth. "The neural strain should have killed you," he said without preamble. "Our medical scans show tissue damage consistent with exposure levels far beyond anything previously survived." Maya sat up slowly, testing her coordination. "But I survived." "Indeed. Dr. Sharry's analysis suggests your neural pathways showed unprecedented adaptability during the interface process. Instead of simply enduring the strain, your brain actually evolved temporary structures to handle the increased load." This explained the genetic testing that Maya had noticed in her medical records. She was apparently descended from the enhanced bloodlines that humanity had once engineered to face cosmic threats. "What happens now?" Maya asked. Zaxthor's mandibles clicked in what she had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "You graduate immediately as a full Void Guardian. Your performance has earned you a posting to the Deep Range Squadron, the unit that handles our most dangerous assignments." Maya nodded, unsurprised by this development. She had always known she was meant for something beyond the ordinary, even if it had taken others time to recognize it. Over the following weeks, Maya completed her accelerated graduation and received her Void Guardian credentials. The ceremony was small and private, attended only by the senior staff who had witnessed her development. As she stood in her new uniform, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had been overlooked and underestimated at every stage, dismissed as just another quiet recruit without obvious talents. That invisibility had become her greatest strength, allowing her to develop her abilities without the pressure and expectations that crushed other promising candidates. Captain Rodriguez presented her with her first assignment, a solo reconnaissance mission to investigate strange signals from beyond the galactic rim. It was the kind of dangerous, uncertain mission that required someone capable of thinking independently and acting decisively without support. "Any questions about the assignment?" Rodriguez asked. Maya reviewed the mission parameters one final time. Unknown threats, minimal intelligence, no backup available. It was exactly the kind of challenge she had been training for her entire life. "No questions, sir. When do I leave?" "Your ship launches in 2 hours." "And Chen?" Rodriguez's expression grew serious. Remember that being underestimated can be an advantage out there. Sometimes the galaxy's most dangerous enemies make the same mistake as our training instructors. Maya smiled slightly, a rare display of emotion that spoke of quiet confidence rather than arrogance. Yes, sir. I'll remember that. As she prepared to depart for her first mission as a Void Guardian, Maya thought about all the people who had overlooked her along the way. Her parents' friends who pitied the quiet orphan, military recruiters who saw her as barely adequate, fellow recruits who dismissed her as weak and unremarkable. They had all made the same fundamental error, confusing quiet confidence with lack of ability, mistaking thoughtful observation for passive weakness. Maya had learned to use their blindness to her advantage, becoming stronger precisely because no one expected her to succeed. Now, as she prepared to face the unknown dangers that lurked in the spaces between stars, Maya carried with her the most powerful weapon any Guardian could possess, the element of surprise that came from being consistently underestimated. The soft-spoken girl everyone overlooked was about to remind the galaxy that sometimes the greatest threats came not from the loudest voices, but from the quiet ones who saw everything and revealed nothing until the moment they chose to act. Maya Chen walked toward her ship with the same calm purposefulness that had carried her through every challenge in her life. Behind her, Station Harmony continued its work of training new Guardians, but ahead lay adventures and dangers that would test her abilities in ways no simulation could prepare her for. The stars awaited, and somewhere among them, ancient evils that had never encountered anything quite like the quietly deadly human who had learned to turn being overlooked into her greatest advantage.